Why did Pap wait until the very end of Father's Day to post about his rest of his kids after spending almost the whole day only showing love to one child? This is Marcus Hale. Welcome back to the Shaderi channel and thanks for pulling up. Hope everybody is having a great day. Today, we're talking about Papoose, also known as Remy Ma's estranged husband, also known as Claressa Shields' married man, and all the drama tied to that situation. Yesterday was Father's Day, and something caught my attention right away. First off, happy Father's Day to the dads who are really putting in the work and showing up for their children every day. That's what the day is supposed to be about. Now here's what had me looking sideways at Pap. This is someone who will jump online and make a post for just about anything. It doesn't matter if it's a major event or something small, he's usually active in sharing his thoughts. But yesterday, I noticed that for most of the day, he only acknowledged one of his 4 children, and I couldn't help but wonder what was going on. I was sitting there thinking, this is no bueno. Seriously, it felt strange. The first post stayed up for practically the entire day, and the whole situation had me confused. I kept asking myself, do you not have 4 children? Because from the way things looked, only one child seemed to be getting the Father's Day spotlight. Like, what are we doing here? Seriously, what are we doing? Anyway, let's get into the post. It read, "These 2 beauties right here are first cousins, my niece and my daughter, but they are both like my daughters. They were extremely close. For the past few years, they have not been speaking to one another. I couldn't wait to catch them in the same place at the same damn time," followed by an angry emoji. He continued, "I raised both of them in real life. I told them all I want for Father's Day is for them to cut the BS out. Life is too short and family is everything. Always remember, when you see me, I represent togetherness. It's the power of love. We don't do it for the cameras. We are way too authentic for that. I hope this can inspire some other families to do the same. This made my day. I love you guys. Thanks for my gift." Then he added the 6-100 emojis, a heart emoji, and Happy Father's Day out to the real ones out there. So this was the energy Pap decided to put out on Father's Day. This was the message he wanted front and center for most of the day. The focus was on family unity, bringing people back together and celebrating reconciliation. But here's what had people raising their eyebrows. That post stayed up for hours, and during that time, there was still no acknowledgement of his other 3 children. That's the part that stood out to me. Usually when someone makes a Father's Day post like this, they'll also post something recognizing all of their children. Maybe a message saying, "I'm proud to be the father of these 4 amazing children," or something along those lines. That's typically what people expect to see on a day that's meant to celebrate fatherhood as a whole. Like, what are we doing here? What is actually going on? Anyway, it wasn't until the very end of the night that things changed. We're talking around 9 or 10 p.m. when Pap finally made a post that included his other children. Up until that point, a lot of people were wondering whether there would be any broader Father's Day acknowledgement at all. The post said, "I have knocked down walls, climbed mountains, and did the impossible for mine. The authenticity and sincerity of a real father can never be questioned. Hashtag Happy Father's Day." Along with that message came a 12-slide photo carousel featuring family pictures. One child appeared in a large portion of the photos, which only added to the conversation that had already been building throughout the day. And that's really what caught my attention, the timing of it all. It felt unusual. If the goal was to celebrate all of your children on Father's Day, why wait until the final hours of the day to make that post? That's the question a lot of people ended up asking. Now, everybody handles social media differently. Some parents post constantly, while others barely post at all. Nobody's required to share family moments online, especially on holidays or special occasions. That's a personal choice. At the same time, Pap has often been very vocal online about fatherhood, family, and the role he plays in his children's lives. Because of that, I wasn't surprised when he eventually made a larger Father's Day post. What surprised me was how long it took before all of his children were included in the celebration. To me, it created a situation where one child seemed to be getting most of the spotlight, while the others were acknowledged much later. That's the perception some viewers walked away with, whether that was the intention or not. And naturally, that led to more questions than answers. Some people began wondering if relationships between parents can sometimes influence how family dynamics are perceived from the outside. Of course, nobody truly knows what happens behind closed doors, and social media only shows a small piece of the picture. Still, when people people notice differences in how posts are made, they're going to talk about it and try to figure out what message is being sent. Like, do the kids have to be a certain way to get attention from Pap? Do they have to fit a specific mold before they get acknowledged? I don't know, but that's the kind of question that crossed my mind while watching all of this unfold. What didn't sit right with me was how it looked from the outside. For most of Father's Day, it seemed like only one child was being highlighted. Then later in the evening, after people had already started talking about it, the broader family post showed up with the photo carousel and all the rest.
To me, that's where things get a little tricky. Either post or don't post. Nobody is required to put their family business on social media. But if you're gonna make Father's Day content centered around being a parent, many people expect all of your children to be included somewhere in that celebration. When one child gets the spotlight for nearly the entire day and everyone else appears much later, it's easy to see why some people might start asking questions. Fair or unfair, that's just how social media works. People notice details and they pay attention to who gets highlighted and when. And this is exactly why conversations about favoritism pop up in families all the time. When there are differences in attention, recognition, or visibility, people naturally start comparing situations. Whether that's the reality or just the perception, those discussions can take on a life of their own very quickly. Think about it from the perspective of the other children for a moment. If you spent the day watching your father post about one child while you weren't mentioned until much later, how would that come across? That's a question many viewers were asking as they watched everything play out online. Another thing that stood out was the photo itself. The post appeared to include a FaceTime screenshot, which suggested the family members weren't necessarily together in person at that moment. Instead, it looked like they connected virtually to show they had reunited and were on good terms again. That's great news if relationships were repaired, but it also added another layer to the discussion people were already having about the Father's Day posts and the timing behind them. So that's another thing that stood out to me, right? You've already made a major Father's Day post centered around a child who, based on what was shared online, didn't appear to be spending the day with you in person. The post was focused on her and your niece reconnecting, and that became the main storyline for most of the holiday. Then, much later, near the end of the day, the post recognizing your other children finally arrived. And for me, that's where the whole situation started feeling a little strange. I just couldn't shake the feeling that the rollout felt carefully staged for social media. That's my personal reaction to it, especially because the message was heavily focused on being authentic, being genuine, and not doing things for attention or cameras. When someone repeatedly says we don't do it for the cameras and this isn't for social media, people are naturally going to compare those words to the actions they're seeing online. That's why the timing became such a big part of the conversation. The way it looked from the outside was that the reunion between your daughter and niece became the headline moment of the day. It created the impression that this was the achievement being showcased and celebrated publicly. Some viewers even felt the post was presenting that reconciliation as a major Father's Day success story. Then, much later, near the end of the day, the larger Father's Day tribute arrived hours later, and many people had already formed opinions about who had been placed at the center of the day's narrative. That's what kept fueling the discussion. And here's where the criticism really came from. The message emphasized that family is everything and that real-life relationships matter most. But at the same time, some viewers felt certain family connections were receiving much more public attention than others. Whether that was intentional or not, that's the perception being created online. That's why some people describe the situation as feeling transactional or selective, not because anyone knows what happens behind closed doors, but because social media often leads people to judge situations based on what is highlighted, what is delayed, and what gets the most visibility. When those differences become noticeable, the audience starts connecting the dots and drawing their own conclusions. It's giving transactional parenting, and that's what has so many people talking right now. Like, what are we doing here? At the end of the day, whatever issues may exist between Paps and Remy Ma are matters for the adults involved to work through. Children should never be caught in the middle of those situations or be perceived as receiving different treatment because of disagreements happening elsewhere. That's why this conversation has struck a nerve with so many people online. From the outside looking in, the Father's Day posts created a lot of questions. Many viewers felt that one child received the majority of attention throughout the day, while the recognition of the other children came much later. Whether that was intentional or not, that's the perception that ended up spreading across social media. And here's the thing. You're probably not going to get a standing ovation for making a late-night post after people have already spent the entire day discussing who was and wasn't acknowledged. That's where much of the criticism is coming from. A lot of people believe that when you're celebrating being a parent, all of your children should be celebrated equally and proudly. That's why some viewers have connected this situation to comments and concerns that have been discussed publicly in the past. As new events happen, people naturally compare them to previous statements and draw their own conclusions. Of course, none of us know everything that happens behind the scenes. Social media only shows a small piece of the full picture. But when public posts create certain impressions, people are going to react and share their opinions. With that said, that's it for today's video. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you think people are reading too much into the Father's Day posts, or do you believe the criticism is justified? I want to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share this video, and drop a comment to help support the channel. Thanks for watching. This was Shade Marcus Hale. Stay safe, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.